My name is Jordan, and I will be talking about the door in the face technique from Module 12. So the door in the face technique is used for interpersonal persuasion, and this is when the persuader makes a large, unreasonable request, knowing very well that the individual will deny this request. The persuader then quickly lowers the request to what he or she had in mind from the beginning. This technique is mostly seen in political issues, but I've also seen it in sales as well. A good example that the book uses is a recently graduated student working with a bank to pay off their student loans. Hopefully that'll be us in a semester or two. But this loan officer might ask us to pay $100 monthly, knowing that we won't be able to afford that right out of college, along with rent and car payments and everything else. So once we deny that request, they might lower it down to, say, $50 a month, which is more manageable, and that's what they had in mind from the very beginning. The persuader starts off big, hoping that we might accept, however, knowing that's unlikely. They also know that the big request will cause the individuals to be more likely to accept a lower request for a couple of reasons. Some of those reasons are guilt relief or self-presentation. The individual may feel guilty or feel bad that they cannot accept the initial request, and therefore will be more likely to go along with the second request, just because this helps reduce the feeling of guilt. Another possible example is that the extreme request functions as a baseline offer. So the second request seems much more manageable than the first, so the individual agrees, relieved that they were able to talk down the persuader down to a reasonable option. And then the last reason is self-presentation, which was also mentioned in the book. And this is the idea that the individual does not want to be seen in a negative light because they turned down that first offer. So they will accept the second offer in order to maintain a positive image in the eyes of the persuader. The door in the face technique also reminds me a lot of negotiating prices. I recently bought a new vehicle, and negotiating the price was very interesting. It was kind of difficult, but the sales guy threw out a high number, and then I offered a much lower number, and we were able to find somewhere in the middle that we could both agree on, and at least be a little happy with. So even though this technique usually benefits the salesperson most, it can also benefit the buyer as well. Some people don't negotiate the price. So by knowing how this technique works from the seller's perspective and being aware that it was happening, I was able to recognize that and know that he was giving me an outrageous number, that he didn't expect me to go along with that in the beginning. And by knowing this information, it benefited me as a buyer so that I didn't feel pressured to accept that first request from the beginning. This technique can also be used for unethical as well as ethical purposes. So an example of an ethical purpose might be trying to persuade an individual to give blood. The persuader might request that the individual give monthly, which is unlikely. Most people don't enjoy giving blood. I know I don't. I typically get really nauseous and almost pass out. So I would not be able to give monthly just because of that, but also I wouldn't be able to take off of work, and I know that's the case for a lot of people. Once you give blood, sometimes it's harder to function afterwards, and so they'll tell you to eat and rest, so they won't be able to take off an afternoon or take off even a few hours to do that once a month. So once they deny that request, the persuader might ask them to give blood just once a year or maybe every 6 months. So that's a lot more manageable, and they're more likely to go along with that. And this is for a good cause, obviously. So it is ethical, and it is for a good purpose. An unethical purpose might be an individual or group of individuals who are posing as a charitable organization using this technique to get money or other products like canned goods or something like that to benefit only themselves. So I hope that y'all learned a few things about the door in the face technique, and y'all have a great rest of your semester.